So on Christmas Day, when I was 4, I woke up to find something terrifying at the end of my bed. It was a clown puppet. And for my 5th birthday, my parents carried on in this vein, and they gave me a live gift of a Punch and Judy show. I was traumatized. Now, despite this shock aversion therapy that my parents were obviously embarked upon, I don't know what I'd done, I am now a puppet maker and a puppet director. And probably because of those events, I've become really interested in the way that we see puppets. And so what I'd like to talk about today is what neuroscience and the sciences in general can tell us about the way that we see puppets and maybe the world beyond. So, does anyone see a face? Yeah. Well, in fact, it's not a face. That is a diagram of the brain from below, and those red bits are not eyes, but they're in fact your amygdala. Now, your amygdala is part of the limbic system. Evolutionarily speaking, it's a very ancient part of our brain. And the amygdala is responsible for emotional responses. So fear, anger, lust, these emotions all play a big part in your survival. Now, in marketing and advertising business speak, this has become known as the lizard brain. Now, this isn't strictly accurate. In fact, it's anatomically inaccurate. But nevertheless, the term has stuck. Now, your amygdala is also responsible for laying down memory. So the stronger the emotional input, the stronger the memory. And that's probably why I can remember the events of my 5th birthday and Christmas 1971 so terrifyingly clearly. Now, here is another diagram of the brain. And up over the top, that sort of bubblegum chewed bit, that's your neocortex. This evolved evolutionarily much later. And in this developed state, it's what makes us human. Amongst many other jobs, what it's responsible for is rational thought and also for social thinking. If you like, it's the human sketch pad upon which we sketch ideas for the future and make considered decisions. Your amygdala makes very, very quick decisions based on your survival. A split second may mean the difference between life and death. And so what we have here are 2 decision-making processes. And what I'd like to talk about and show you are some of the ways in which puppetry exploits this cognitive difference. So I've brought along with me a few friends. So we have Chand, and we have Taylor, and we have Mike over here. And perhaps most importantly, we have Mikey.
Hey, how you doing?
I hear a little bit of laughter. Now, your rational brain is telling you, okay, I'm laughing because I've just seen a puppet in pants. He's got a big belly, he's got stick legs, he's funny. But I'm telling you, there's a whole lot going on before you laugh. What's happening is that your survival brain is initiating a fight or flight response. It's seeing something that looks like it's alive, and so it's saying, watch it. And what happens with your fight or flight response is you have a squirt of cortisol, which is, as we've heard, the stress hormone, and adrenaline into your system. Essentially, what it's telling you is that you should either run away or you should hit Mikey and possibly eat him. Now, it's at this point that your rational brain kicks in. And it comes up with various solutions, comes up with various calculations. So calculation number 1, what's the likelihood at a TEDx talk that a small, semi-naked creature is going to be running around? Secondly, if it attacks us, statistically, it's not going to attack me first. Thirdly, there are a few of us here. We could probably overwhelm him. And fourthly, how embarrassing is it going to be if I'm the only one who stands up screaming and runs out? So it's at this point that our brain puts everything together rationally and says, okay, we'll go with it. He's a puppet. He's a puppet. And then you laugh. Now, this is what psychologists call the laughter of relief. It's an ancient response to the passing of danger. on our hypothetical savannah, the saber-toothed tiger has gone, and so the group's response is to laugh. Now what this does, this mechanism does, is to lower those stress levels. It takes the heart rate down. And what it does is it creates a sense of social well-being. It's a bit of a high. And in fact, theatrically speaking, that is exactly what we want to turn a group of somewhat apprehensive individuals into an audience. So what else are we doing here? Let's have a look at breath. Okay, Mikey? Right, going to do some breathing now. Now, breath has 4 parts. We have the in-breath, we have the top of the breath, we have the out-breath, and then the bottom of the breath. And so it goes on. So you can see there, Mikey is doing what we're taking, some kind of Tai Chi here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this down. Okay, so Mikey, let's take this down a little bit. And down, and down, and there. Now, I think we can all see the moment that Mikey dies.
Come on, what's the matter with you?
Okay.
Holding my breath for so long.
So Mikey dies when he doesn't display breath. And what's going on there is that your survival brain, your lizard brain, is detecting the absence of breath. Now, the absence of breath is important because that means death, and it could mean disease. And that's danger. And this is one of the reasons why, say, lifelike dolls and lifelike robots are so uncanny. It's because we're detecting the absence of breath, and therefore, danger. So what else is going on here? Well, Mikey's got a sense of balance, haven't you, Mikey?
I sure have. Watch me dance. I can dance the rumba. How about on 1 foot? Whoa, how about that? You like that, don't you?
So what our puppeteers are doing there is they're making it look like that Mikey is autonomously controlling himself.
I am.
That he's got a sense of balance. Okay, let's take it a bit further, Mikey. Let's have a walk.
No problem. I'm going to go see these ladies over here. Whoa. I did not see the edge of that table.
Okay, all right.
What's the matter with you?
Okay. So, whilst Mikey's looking over the edge of the table, let's look at something else. You can see empathy. He's got skin that looks somewhat lifelike. He's just wearing pants. He's vulnerable. But perhaps most importantly, what neuroscience has discovered fairly recently is a thing called the motor neuron. Now, the motor neuron is something which is responsible for what's called automatic imitation. And that's a process whereby when we are relating to somebody, and in this case Mikey, we're making tiny little imitative movements which are imitating him facially. And it's thought that this is how we empathize with people, how we understand their feelings and their emotions. In fact, there's an experiment done where there were people who had had Botox treatment, which freezes various muscles in the face, and they were asked to identify the emotions on a series of faces shown to them on screens. And they scored lower in the test because they were unable to make these imitative movements with their face because those muscles had been paralyzed. So, should we put this all together? Mikey, would you like to climb those wall bars there?
These babies?
Those are the ones.
Sure thing. I can climb any wall bars around. What do we got here? Ain't no problem. Hey. Piece of cake, huh?
Very good, very good, very good. And Mikey, how about this trampoline down here?
Hey, sure thing.
No, you like to stay in shape.
I do like to stay in shape. What do you think, huh? Look at my belly. Oh, okay, here we go. Watch me fly. Oh, look how high I can get, huh? Hey! How about a little bum squash? Whoa! Sideways, other ways. Any ways you want to. Whoa!
Okay, so whilst Mikey's doing this, let's go on to something else. Focus. Our puppeteers here are focusing intensely on Mikey, treating him as if he is alive. Now, this goes back to another ancient reaction, again on our savannah. One person sees something, and they're looking intently. Everybody else will follow. It's an ancient survival reaction to protect the group. So, Mikey.
Huh?
You like to take over?
Sure thing.
Go for it.
Okay, I'm a puppet, right? Bit of foam, aluminum, the whole bit. Without these guys, hi. I'm nothing. But you want to believe in me, right? I'm different. And as long as I'm breathing and moving, they can convince you I'm alive. If they're doing it correctly, my movements correspond to what cognitive neuroscientists call your internal model. That is your mental picture of reality. It's based on a mix of your past experiences and internal conjecture of what reality is like. The brain takes our sense perceptions and measures them against our internal model and puts together the most likely explanation. If I look like I'm walking, right? Yeah. You've seen it before. We make up a story. We confabulate. Sometimes our senses see things that don't quite fit that model, but the brain, don't even register it. When your old lizard brain is up and running, remember, we're making quick decisions. Pop! And it's telling you I'm alive, even though my lips ain't moving and I'm still talking. Of course, your social brain, your prefrontal cortex is going, of course he's not alive. He's got hands all over him. This is a social occasion. I am being intellectual by sitting in a TEDx talk. Look at me and my black polo neck. Well, let me tell you something, sweet cheeks. I ain't working without your old lizard brain doing his bit. You gonna tell me that's intellectual? Huh? Jeez. Come on, guys, get me out of here.
Okay, thank you. Good. So, I hope what we've demonstrated there is a fairly strong idea of how your survival brain is actually trumping your rational brain there. Given the choice, your brain rejects, its default setting is to reject ambiguity. So on one hand, your rational explanation is I have three people here playing around with a doll on a table, but your survival brain is far more emotional. It's detecting life. And given this far more emotional input, which incidentally is triggered before the rational brain has come to any kind of conclusion, we go with that, your survival brain. I think what Samuel Taylor Coleridge, the Romantic poet, might call the willing suspension of disbelief. However, I'd like to maybe say that what we've seen calls that willingness into question. We project faces onto patterns. We don't know anything about it, but we're making automatic imitations of people's movements around us. We're also detecting the absence of breath, but we're not consciously aware of this. These are not acts of will. So why is this important? Why is this no more than just a diverting parlor game? Well, in the case of our puppeteers, what they're doing is they're hijacking your survival brain in order to sell you the illusion of life. Remember the amygdala, we're playing on the amygdala. Its decisions are very short term, and they're only in the interest of getting you out of danger. They don't care what you do afterwards. That's for your rational brain to deal with. However, would you use this decision-making process, say, to buy a car, or to plan your finances, or maybe even to vote? Maybe not. But then as rational people, I have to ask you, why is it that this rational brain versus survival brain model, or lizard brain as it's become known, has been so successful in advertising and politics? Now in puppetry, we're just using this hijacking to sell you life. Whereas in advertising and politics, your survival brain is being hijacked in order to sell you through sex, fear, anger, outrage, revenge, scapegoating, pretty much anything. And the grand illusion here is that having made one of these skewed lizard brain decisions, your rational brain will then go on to utterly justify that decision as totally rational. Now, don't get me wrong. Emotions are important in decision-making. In fact, people who've had damage to their amygdala find it very difficult to make any kind of decision. And the reason for that is because they've lost that emotional component that allows them to settle on a final decision. Nevertheless, is there a way that we can escape from this hall of mirrors? Is there a way that we can control this idea that we are being manipulated? Can we take back control? Well, it appears we can. Because whereas our rational brain, its measurement, the IQ, stays the same throughout our life, we can improve our EQ, our emotional intelligence. Now, this is the ability to regulate that seesaw between the lizard brain and the rational brain. And so, if we take time to develop our emotional intelligence, perhaps through mindfulness, there's many ways, it's been seen that it allows us to develop greater empathy with others. And the benefits of this is it makes us far better at working in groups and playing, and also better leaders. Furthermore, we make better decisions for ourselves, for others, and the groups to which we belong. Neurologically speaking, what's actually going on there is that you are laying down new neural pathways. Now, the limbic system actually has far greater pathways, far stronger pathways up into your neocortex than those going the other way. And this does something to address the balance. In fact, it's described as something similar to learning a musical instrument. So finally, I'd just like to say, go and see more puppet shows, because I think they can tell you a little more about the way you think, you make decisions, and you perceive the world than you might think. Thank you very much.